Welcome to Real Estate Exposed, helping people in San Diego buy, sell, and refinance their biggest investment, delivering you timely truths, exposing important issues, and helping you get into the right home. Here are your hosts, real estate expert Daniel Beer, top-ranked professional by sales volume at one of San Diego's largest brokerages, and his mortgage partner, Todd with over $2 billion in funded loans.
Fresh off of the home selling workshops that have just hit San Diego this past week, and man, it was just awesome to see and share so much good information with those of you that showed up. We enjoyed it very much, and those of you that didn't, we would love to have you next time around, so we'll be sure to let you know right here on Real Estate Exposed. I am your host, Daniel Beer. That's beer like the drink, the Daniel Beer Group at Keller Williams Realty, #1 producing agent for the in the county for the largest brokerage in North America. And my man here, Todd, the guy that we entrust our loan business to. Many of our friends and family referred, as well as current and past clients, future clients. Todd of Home Street Bank.
Good morning, Dan. I have to tell you, that was a great home selling seminar. I mean, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday all across the county, the people that came out, and we appreciate you, those who came up to us and said hi and have heard us on the radio. It was, I kind of felt like a little bit of a celebrity, I have to say. But, I think we've got to, let's just jump into the show today. We are Real Estate Exposed. And, I think for those of you that missed did not have a chance to come to the seminars, one of the things that I was most intrigued about was that Dan talked about, myths basically in the real estate business. And we are Real Estate Exposed. And what that means is that we like to expose what, some of the common themes that happen out in the real estate world. And, one of the things that we constantly change these seminars every couple months, and we change them up and we talk about what's going on in, the real estate market, and we add stuff and take away stuff that's either relevant or not relevant. But one of the things that really struck a chord with me that I really, asked Dan to talk about this Sunday morning was the common myths that that most people think when they're thinking about, selling their home. And, Dan, can you just jump on in and let's talk about some of those myths? So
there are 3 big myths that we've identified. We shared them at the workshop, and even though we can't give you everything we give you at the workshop, we do want to bring this to you. It really hit a chord with all of the attendees, and it was wonderful, right? I mean, we had about 76 people sign up for these workshops, and they walked out with huge, big information that's going to help them in their future home sale. Now, we want to bring...
Whether they use either one of us. I mean, it was a total educational seminar.
Oh, yeah. Some of them will use us. Some of them will use somebody else. Some of them will just, who knows what they'll do with the information. But in any case, it's absolutely not tied to us. But
right.
The 3 myths of real estate, the 3 myths of home selling specifically, we want to bring, we expose those at the workshops. We're going to bring them to you here now. So let's jump in quickly. Myth number 1.
What I want to do, though, is as you bring them up, Dan, I want to, you talk about them at the seminar, and you go through each of them piece by piece. But let's go through each one. I'm going to ask you some questions on each one. Why? You know what I mean?
Sure.
If that's all right with you.
Let's do that. So myth number 1, the time of year myth.
Yeah, let's talk about the time of year myth, because I'm always told, and realtors are always saying, that, the best time to sell is spring, or the best time to sell is summer. I mean, is that a true statement? I mean, it seems to me like if I want to sell my house, I may be moving for whatever reason it is. I mean, am I going to get more money in the spring or summer than I am in the fall or the winter? I mean, is that a myth or is that a reality?
So it's funny you say, realtors say it, because for me, it's real. I hear what realtors say. I hear what buyers say. I hear what sellers say. On a regular basis, I'm re-educated by my own clients every time I meet somebody on what the best time of year is.
Right.
Sometimes it's the best time of year is the spring, but in the summer, people think the summer's good. Other people think the summer's not so good because you go on vacation. But then again, people warn you about tax season, but tax season happens to be in the spring. So spring good or spring bad? It's amazing. All these assumptions that people come to the table with. So let's dispel myth number 1, the time of year myth.
Right.
Time of year in San Diego County is irrelevant, okay? With one small exception. Outside of if you're selling maybe into the 3rd week of December through about the 1st week of January, that's going to be slower for you, no question, no doubt. But the time of year myth is so much of a it's just fake, okay? It's smoke and mirrors. It's just people talking. It's people bringing preconceived notions with them from Boston or from, North Dakota or from Kansas or from some other cold weather climate and bringing it here to San Diego. It's a product of listening to national news media outlets. It's a product of frankly, it's actually a product to some extent of just using logic,
right,
which doesn't always work, but using logic in that, people think that the summer season, because kids are moving in and out, etc. Okay, there's a lot broken here. First of all, keep something in mind. And this isn't my opinion. This is the facts. I've studied the numbers month over month over month, quarter over quarter. And in San Diego County, we have a year-round market. There's very little fluctuation. Now, having said that, I said there's little fluctuation, meaning there is still some.
Right.
So what's interesting, Todd, is that
well, I mean, there's more
months,
houses on the market right now than there have because we're in the spring, summer kind of buying season.
Exactly.
Is what everybody says.
As you go into those spring months and into those summer months, the part that no one looks at is the fact that you also have all of these home sellers that are trying to be clever and say, they were planning on selling in the winter, but they say, oh, you know what, let's wait till spring or summer because there's more buyers.
Right.
So what you get is a glut of new inventory hitting the market in those months. And so it basically balances itself out. You might have 20% more buyers, but you might have 20 or 30% more listings on the market. So the supply and demand graph is where we come back to, and that's what matters. You need to get your agent to show you exactly what the absorption rate is and how many homes are on the market versus those sold currently in your neighborhood. And that's what you go by. You don't go by if the calendar tells you it's April or June or February or December or whatever else it might tell you.
But if I'm a buyer, that means I have more options, though, if there's more houses on the market, right?
Interestingly, though, the myth does come from some degree of truth. There's also more buyers in the market in those days. So you're also going to have more competition as a buyer, but you're going to have more homes to choose from. In the fall and winter, you're going to have less buyer competition, but less homes to choose from. It balances itself out. So if you're a buyer, if you're a seller, either way, do this. Here's the instruction on how to beat the time of year myth. Do what's right for your family. Don't just go rushing to sell in the spring and summer because some agent told you that that's the only time you can possibly sell a home. That's BS.
CNBC tells me that too, though.
Don't let CNBC or your agent tell you that.
Right.
You sell when it's right for you and your family. Now, if you actually were to tell me any time is right for me and my family, it literally makes zero difference to me.
Right.
You'd be amazed at what I'd tell you. And actually, you'll see I get nothing to gain by telling you this because we're going to have to wait a long time till it comes back around. My favorite month of the year to sell homes is actually February.
Why?
I love February because you have all of these sleepy sellers that are being clever waiting for the spring-summer season.
Right.
You have all your buyers out, ready, looking, and unable to find much inventory because all the sellers are waiting for the spring-summer selling season. And as a seller, you bring your home on the market in February, and it's awesome, man. You have so little competition. You have a big buyer pool. It's great. Now, having said that, like I mentioned, I get zero to gain out of telling you that because if you're thinking about selling your home with me, guess what? Now I just told you to wait all the way till February.
Right.
But it's not about me. It's about you. Sell when the time is right for you. If it's going to be right this spring, great. If it's right this summer, great. If it's literally makes zero difference to you, I will tell you, February is my favorite month.
Well, that's good. I think that's really important news because we talk about, pulling the veil back and telling people when the right time is or what they're being told is not, I don't want to say not truths, but, things that are different. That people are fallacies. What's another one of our myths that we got, Dan?
So here's the next myth. And by the way, you are listening to Real Estate Exposed here on 600 KOGO. And our phone number, if you want to connect with myself, Daniel Beer, the Daniel Beer Group at Keller Williams, or with Todd Pianin and his partner Taisha at Home Street Bank. You have any questions for us, the number's 800-676-2420. Give us a shout. Let's wrap. Let's find out what's going on with you and how we could best help put things into perspective for you. If this is the kind of just straightforward, unbiased, not self-serving, but rather, just all about you information you appreciate, then let's do it on a one-on-one basis. The number's 800-676-2420. So the next myth that needs to be blown up here coming out of the break is the neighborhood agent. Too many of you are looking for your neighborhood agent. We're going to show you how to actually get that person working for you for free, plus any other person that assumes themselves to be the neighborhood agent, and why that logic is so darn flawed. And something you cannot miss, because we're bringing it up on the back end of the hour, there is a big shift happening in the real estate market. This is the first time we're going public with it. We're making it our public stance. You can't miss that, because this is like having been given information early in 2006 before the 2007, 8, 9 disaster. You're going to need that. Stick with us. That's coming up next here on Real Estate Exposed. We're back with you here. Welcome back Sunday morning, Real Estate Exposed here on News Radio 600 KOGO. We're your hosts. I'm Daniel Beer with the Daniel Beer Group at Keller Williams. Daniel Beer Group, I'm happy to report, top producing agents by volume in all of San Diego County for the largest brokerage in all of North America. So we're super proud of that, and we then need a very strong lender in our corner. Because of that volume amount of business, we need a strong lender in our corner, somebody that is there to cross-qualify buyers when we're representing sellers, somebody that's there for our friends, for our family, for our purchasing clients, for those that need to refinance, and the people we most trust. Todd Pianin, Taisha Lindsay at Home Street Bank. Todd is my co-host here on the show. What's happening? We're back to the second segment.
I'm coming off such a big high because the home selling seminars were such a huge success, and we got so many great questions, and we met so many great people that, I mean, you know, one of the things we're going to talk about today, what we're talking about this morning, is the myths subject that you bring up in the home selling seminars. But I mean, Dan, I'm coming off a really big high. It was just awesome. I mean, we saw so many KOGO listeners. Thank you guys for coming out. And it was a great workshop, and we're constantly changing the workshops. If you want to get in touch with Dan and I at any time, you know, again, because you missed the workshops, and you want to find out Dan's 5-day blitz, or you want to know about interest rates, or you want to know about if it's the right time to refi or sell your property, you can contact either one of us at 800-676-2420. Again, 800-676-2420, and we can have one-on-one conversations, as well as if you were at the workshops, because a lot of you told us that you are avid Sunday morning listeners, and you had questions after you left the seminars and you wanted to talk to us. Just give Dan a shout, give me a shout. We're there to help you. We're there to answer your questions. But the next myth, Dan, that you brought up at the seminar is what?
So in this first segment, we covered the time of year myth. And if you missed the segment number one, hook up with Todd and I. We'll get you updated.
Or go to iTunes, because they can download the podcast. You can go to SoundCloud
Absolutely.
or our YouTube channel, and you can find it also on Facebook. So
myth number two, because we're dispelling three big myths of the real estate world. Three big home selling myths. And myth number two is that of the neighborhood agent. The neighborhood agent. Something that, you know, it's actually something we didn't talk about at the workshops, but you know, it's interesting actually where this even comes from, Todd.
Right.
The neighborhood agent is a concept that really comes from the old days. It comes from pre-MLS days. It comes from pre-internet days. You needed the neighborhood agent. There's the only way to understand what was out there, who was what. You know, it was the only way to really understand the nature of the neighborhood was to have the neighborhood agent.
The person who lived in the neighborhood, probably went to school with your kids, that kind of stuff. That was your neighborhood agent.
It's the only way that someone could know about floor plans and size and et cetera, because you literally, you know, you could only cover so much ground. There was no internet.
Right.
It's really a relic of the past, though, just the same way as Caravan is a relic of the past. Agents would go on Caravan because it was the only way to understand what was on the market.
Right.
There was no internet.
I remember when I was working in LA, they used to have a book. They used to send out a book, and it was called the Open House Caravan, and that's how you knew what the new product was that was on the market.
It is a relic of the past, just like that. So,
but now I can sit in my underwear, and I can go to SanDiegoHomefinder.com, and I can look at homes there.
So a lot of people are still looking for, you know, what about my neighborhood agent? Neighborhood agent. Look, here's what your neighborhood agent is. And by the way, it might be a fabulous agent.
Right.
But it very well may not be, because there's a very small handful of fabulous agents in the city, in the county, and there's a very large number of neighborhoods. Okay, so kind of put that math together.
Right.
Some of you are missing out. Okay, so what is the neighborhood agent? It's really a person that decided to send you flyers once a month to your house and may or may not be doing nearly the amount of business that you're perceiving them to be doing. Secondly, there's someone just focused on your neighborhood, literally only on your neighborhood. So here's the here's kind of the big takeaway. Do you want someone that only has a database within your neighborhood? Or do you want somebody that has a process that's proven to reach the entire marketplace of buyers for a home like yours, regardless of where they're coming from? And by the way, as part of that process, that person, that agent of yours, is the way I work. Guess what? One of my first things I do is I make every neighborhood agent in your neighborhood, I make them aware of your home. If they have a buyer for your house, guess what? They're going to know. You know, if there's a buyer that they have in their database for your home, they're going to know. Because that's the one thing you can actually count on, is that they're going to know.
Right.
What you can't count on is that they're going to be able to activate the entire wide marketplace of all buyers, having them compete with one another, including competing with that person's buyer. You can't afford to sell your home or market your home to a subsect of the market. You need the entire market if you actually expect market value. Right? Does that sound congruent to you? That if you expect market value, you might need the market to your home? But
my neighborhood agent tells me, Dan, that they're going to get me. They're going to bring the market to me.
Well, then they need to show you what activities they're going to implement that absolutely guarantee, and they need to be able to show you that they've done it hundreds of times over and over and over. Because I've been in neighborhoods where the neighborhood agent will literally just look them up right on the computer. We'll just pull them up. How many homes have they sold?
Right.
You know, and they might have sold 8 homes over the last 12 months. Yeah, fine. 3 or 4 of those 8 happen to be in the neighborhood. But is that person have more ability to sell your home than someone that sold, 150 or 200 homes over the last 12 months in all neighborhoods, using a strategy and a process that is proven to activate the entire marketplace of buyers and get them in competition against each other? Guess what? Your buyers, they're going to compete against somebody. They're either going to compete against you, the way they do in the traditional home selling process that everybody out there typically implements, or they're going to need to set up in a strategic way to compete with each other. That's what our 5-day Blitz program delivers. That's what you need. But more than anything, if you want one takeaway from this, go find and have an agent that can prove a process that can activate the entire market, and your neighborhood agent, well, they're going to be working for you for free because they're just part of that. They're just part of that system.
But they give me a pie once a year, Dan.
Well, then go eat pie, Todd. Hey, listen, if you want to connect more with us on that, and just to remind you what you're listening to, this is Real Estate Exposed here on KOGO 600. The number to connect with Todd or I to talk anything home selling, buying, refinancing, 800-676-2420. Daniel Beer. Beer is spelled just like the drink, by the way, so you can Google Daniel Beer Real Estate. You'll find us very easily. Or Todd Pianin. That's Pianin.
Just like piano, but with an N.
And if you have any trouble for whatever reason finding Todd Pianin, Home Street Bank, you find Beer. Beer is kind of an easy thing to remember. You just ask us for Todd. You've asked us for financing, and we'll hook you up with him.
Or you can go to tntmtg.com, which is pretty easy. That's Todd and Taisha's page, so tnt.com. Third myth coming out of before we go to the break.
Here's the third myth, okay, coming before we go to break, and it is myth number 3 of home selling. It's all about price. Price, price, price. That's all so many people talk about. And frankly, where I really get sick is when I'm in circles of realtors. You know, I'm in training sometimes, and they'll tell us, I literally was at a training. Actually, factually, literally was at a training.
Right.
About, roughly 2 weeks ago. Guy stood on stage and told a room full of agents, and there happened to be like 500 agents in this particular room. It was over at the Scottish Rite Center.
Mm-hmm.
Literally told a room full of agents, hey, guys, here's what we all know. Price is everything, right? If we just price it the right way, it sells. The rest of it...
takes care of itself.
Well, yeah, I guess at some point. Listen, it's not all about price. Price is an ingredient that plays in harmony with the greater marketing process that activates the whole market, okay? Price complements a marketing strategy that gets buyers competing against one another, but that's if your agent has a way of doing that for you. If your agent doesn't have any way of delivering real value and your unfair share of buyers, then they must only compete on price. Then it becomes true. You need to make it untrue. You need to go beyond price. And listen, we're going to go to break. But coming up next, we're going to be talking about a big shift in the marketplace. You can't miss it. It's just a simple thing. You cannot miss what we're talking about. The market's shifting. You need to know. Listen up. This is one of the most serious messages we've probably ever put out on this show. The market is shifting. We've been having very high-level conversations with some of the biggest minds in the lending world and in the residential world. You're listening to Real Estate Exposed with Daniel Beer of the Daniel Beer Group and Todd Pianin, Home Street Bank. And we are giving you information that's going to put you way ahead of all others in the marketplace. We have a very unique window into the market. Myself, I do more transactions at a higher volume of transactions across price points in the county than any other agent in the county. Period, literally. Todd here, he's funded $2 billion in loans. You know what? You're the vice president of one of the greatest banks in the country here locally, right? A regional vice president and branch manager.
Not a regional, just a branch manager.
Branch manager, vice president, but he runs a bank here locally. A lending institution. You've been talking to your chief appraiser.
Correct. I mean, Home Street.
Let's kick us off with what the chief appraiser's seeing. I'm gonna go into what people on the residential side are seeing, and then I'm gonna give you, the listener, our conclusion. We're gonna get you way ahead of the next market shift because things are changing, and no one believes this yet. That the numbers and the facts are there if you just look. Kind of like Todd. You saw The Big Short. Yes. So my favorite thing about The Big Short is that ultimately it was like, hey, so how'd you figure this out? He's like, well, I looked.
Exactly.
I looked.
You saw what was going on.
I looked. I went into the data and I looked.
Right.
Right? And I was like, man, I wish I looked.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to also dress this segment up with one kind of one side note so that we don't create panic and we don't create,
disruption,
traffic accidents or anything else.
Major disruption in the marketplace.
We're not thinking at all that what's coming is any kind of major event like a 2008, 2009.
Right.
That's on quick review. That was built on a fake, some completely fake lending environment. It was just a very different nature. It was loans that shouldn't have ever been made, et cetera. Today,
high loan to values, people didn't qualify for the mortgage. Yeah. I mean, we've got the best. I mean, as Dan and I talk about the home selling seminars, we have the best vintage of borrowers we've seen in decades.
People are very qualified on every loan that they've done since 2009.
They can afford the houses. Okay. Interest rates are low, so I mean, they're not going anywhere.
So just know we're not predicting the apocalypse. But anyhow, Todd, nevertheless, things are shifting. And Todd, what are you hearing here from the chief appraiser at Home Street Bank?
So I have regular conversations with our appraisal department, and I also talk to one of our chief appraisers at Home Street Bank. And Home Street Bank is we dominate the Pacific Northwest, and we're in 9 different states. And he's saying all across the states and the counties that there's a big shift coming in the marketplace. That values that were climbing in lots of marketplaces are actually going the other direction, Dan. They're coming down, especially in the high-end space. He's seeing that, houses are staying on the market more often, that things are, things aren't coming in at value. They're not going in multiple offers, and the marketplace is changing. And, in certain markets, it's, they're already seeing a downturn in the market.
So we're really early on sharing this information with you, okay? Just to be clear.
When I say downturn, though, I mean downturn on values, not downturn on volume, because I think we all agree that the volume of sales is going to continue. And if you look at Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's predictions, the volume is going to actually increase, but the values that have gone up dramatically are coming down.
So here's what we're seeing. For the last couple of months, I've been seeing that the inland luxury market, which led us into the last housing downturn,
right?
Okay, if you go back to 2006, I would equate where we are right now with 2006. In 2006, the majority of the marketplace was still chugging along wonderfully. Nobody had any worries. The bread and butter median price point, $500,000 market was just chugging along quick, multiple offers, full price offers. It was going just like it's going today.
Right. Even up at 900,000. I mean, under
Even
$1 million.
Depending on what neighborhood, right? I mean, 900,000 in Carmel Valley. Oh yeah,
It's
popping like crazy.
Correct.
Right, and so that was 2006. But here's what a few select people knew in the county. What a few people knew: if you were selling a home in Rancho Santa Fe, an inland luxury, if you were selling inland luxury in Santa Luz, in the Crosby, in Poway, in Chula Vista, in parts of East County. If you were selling inland luxury, you knew that something was different. You'd maybe just finished a spec home was just built, and just 6 months ago, boy, you wouldn't have even been able to finish the home before it was ripped out from under you by buyers fighting for it. But all of a sudden, you go to 2006, and whoa, we're sitting on the market. Market times are growing, inventory levels were growing, price reductions were in place. Let me tell you, that is exactly what's happening right now. Most of the county has no idea. I mean, we literally had a property just get
last weekend
30-something offers on it, and at a 389, it got bid up to well into the 400s in Chula Vista. That most of the market has no idea what I'm talking about right now.
Right.
But if you go ask your wealthy buddies up in those inland luxury markets. Neighborhoods like the Heritage, neighborhoods like it's inventory's ballooning and ballooning. And here's what we're seeing. You go to even somewhere like Fairbanks Ranch. Fairbanks Ranch, people think, oh, they pop $3-4 million deals all day long.
Right.
That's all they do.
Right.
Guess what? In the last 6 months, Fairbanks has sold 3 homes over $3 million.
You got to be kidding me.
Serious, dead serious.
Wow.
3 homes. 3 homes closed over $3 million in the last 6 months. Okay? When you look at neighborhoods like this and you see this growing inventory, neighborhoods where just 4 months ago you had 35 homes on market, and now you have 52 and growing at about 2 homes a week.
Right.
Okay? So it's happening. The early stages are happening, and what's going to happen is that it's going to trickle down to the rest of the market from the inland luxury neighborhoods. It's going to, and I'm saying inland luxury. La Jolla still doesn't know.
Right.
Coronado and Del Mar still don't know.
Right.
But they're going to know.
Right.
And so what I'm predicting, if it's anything like the past, is that over the course of the next 12 to 18 months, it's going to finally hit the rest of the market. Now, what do we see? What do we think is going to happen? Look, it's a good old-fashioned downturn, okay? The same type we've always had, the same type will occur, what we always will have, and we're not predicting anything remotely like 2008, 2009, okay? This is going to be far more mild. And
it's going to be normal. It's going to be normal. We're in a normal market. I mean, if you look at a chart, you're going to see that we're in a normal market. It's not.
Exactly. And so what do you do about this, by the way? What do you do about this? Okay, do you just go run out and sell your home? Look, no. Or maybe. Here's a way of thinking about it. I'll give you my personal story. Am I selling my home because of everything I'm sharing with you right now? The answer is no. I'm actually in the middle of refinancing it. I'm keeping it. But I'm not selling my home because I'm willing to refinance. For me, for my family, I want to refinance, lock in today's rates, which are phenomenal.
Right.
And then I'm willing to keep it. I'm willing to keep my home through a whole market cycle. I want to live in my home for the next 7, 8, 9 years.
It's your home. It's where you're raising your family.
That's where I'm going to be. Now, I have an investment condo. That I have a different plan for. A year from now, when my tenant's out, I'm going to remodel it and sell it. And I think that I'll be right on the cusp, right before it really starts to trickle into that zone. But by the way, my investment condo is at I bought it for $169,000. So at $169,000 in North Park, where I think it'll be worth somewhere in the $240 range by the time that we're done with it, that part of the market won't be feeling the pain probably till about 18 months from now.
Right.
So we're going to be okay. But listen, we have to head to a quick break, though. It's critical. We're going to pick up the conversation. If you have specific questions about your home, your neighborhood, and how this affects you, hook up with us. 800-676-2420. But if you're a homeowner, there's only 2 things you should be doing right now. It's either selling your home or refinancing it and having a long-term plan to stay. One of those 2 things. By the way, if you're a home buyer, by all means, I just sold my brother a home. We're going to talk about that in a moment because it doesn't mean anything on its own without understanding your personal situation. We're going to help you work through it. This is Real Estate Exposed, News Radio 600 KOGO. We'll be right with you. We're back with you on Real Estate Exposed here on News Radio 600 KOGO with Daniel Beer. Beer just like the drink. Todd Pianin. Home Street Bank. We're talking about a very serious issue, the coming market shift. We're in the very early stages, and let's jump right back into the conversation.
So I just want to bring up, Dan, that, people need to understand that when we're talking about a shift in the market, what also happened in the early, the 2006, 2007, 2008, people were buying homes as investments to make quick money. And I think that one of the things that we need to be aware of as consumers out there is that this market hasn't been that. I mean, there was an investment pool that happened, when the market took the downturn last time with, a lot of REITs and hedge funds, buying up a lot of property. But I think you would agree that this marketplace has really been a lot more about people buying their homes to live in and live in there for a long time and call a home. So, I mean, downturn, no downturn, it's paper money once you live in the house. I know for me, I just refinanced and, my son and I and daughter are going to live in this house for, quite some time. And we're doing some improvements on the property. And we don't really care what the market does because we can afford the payment. We can afford to be where we are. We're super happy with, it's a home. It's our home. And
you're not afraid of an apocalyptic downturn.
No, not at all. Not afraid of
And you shouldn't be.
Right.
You shouldn't be. This market turn, however, how does it affect your life? See, because I'm keeping my home. But that's because I have a 7 to 10 year plan with it. If I was selling in 2 years, I'd be selling now.
Right.
I'd be revising my plan.
Right.
Why? Not because necessarily I will lose so much equity in those 2 years, even though I do believe I will be losing some, especially with my price point and et cetera. I think I'll be losing some within those 2 years.
Right.
But the biggest reason I would be making the move now is because I would want to lock in today's rate.
Right.
For my purchase. Because see, even if I then buy now, right? I'm saying I'd sell now where I just kept more equity. I buy now. Let's say that what I buy drops a little bit because that's not going to be the only house in the county that doesn't drop.
Right.
Okay, so what I buy drops a little bit, but I locked in a rate that was a half point or a full point lower than what I would be locking in 2 years from now.
Right.
I'm still far better off.
Right.
Especially if that property is going to be something I'm going to live in for the next 10 years.
Right.
Because, look, I'll deal with the little bit of downturn, but I have an amazing property.
And if you can afford the payment, right? I mean, that was the problem. I mean, we had lots of people doing 5-year ARMs, neg-am loans. They couldn't afford the payment. And so that's what caused this massive crash. Or they owned 3 or 4 or 5 homes because they could make, they were making ridiculous returns on their money in months. If you watch The Big Short, you can see that they're making 20, 30, 40% on their money within like 3 months. If you bought a first phase of a new home, you could sell it within like 3 months and make a 20% return with like no money down. I mean, that's not what's happening in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. I mean, I agree with you. The downturn is happening. I agree that values are going to come down. I think that they're going to then hold steady for a little while. I don't think we're going to see a 20% drop.
No, I don't believe so either.
But
every situation is different, right? Because make no mistake about it, the early signs of the downturn are here.
Right.
They're absolutely here. We have ballooning inventory in your inland luxury markets. You have longer market times. You have price reductions. Okay, that's in place, and it's happening. So I just met with a home seller, home buyer yesterday. And she is in an interesting situation where she's selling her home. But what she actually, unlike so many people right now that are actually wanting to downsize,
right.
She's selling a luxury home, but actually wanting to upsize into a greater luxury home. So there, the opportunity is a different one. There, you're going to actually have more to gain for someone like her by selling your home right now and then renting for about a year,
and then
renting for 2 years,
and then moving into a bigger market.
Because she's selling at $1.6 million price point, Todd, and then when she goes and buys, she could probably end up buying a $2.5 million house that today is $2.5 million. She could probably go and buy that for about $2 million,
right? Well,
right, because those homes will take the greatest hits.
Because I mean, it's funny you bring this up because I mean, even this week we had Janet Yellen, who I believe is not going to raise rates anymore, but because of this, what we see as a downturn, she came out and said that she's signaling for a June rate hike, which what that is trying to do is trying to stimulate this upper end market for people to get off the sidelines because they're worried the interest rates are going to go up in June. I mean, these are more indications. I mean, it's crazy.
I've also, by the way, I've asked myself, am I the only one seeing this? Right. So I've talked with you, Todd.
You got Yellen. You got Yellen right now, right?
You know, you're talking to the Home Street appraiser.
Right.
You're talking about, I've called some of the smartest people I know in residential real estate around the country. They're seeing it. I had a couple of conversations this past week where, the agents literally said, Dan, I can't believe you're seeing this because I literally was just having this conversation with my partner. And yeah, there's a shift right now.
Right.
We're talking about, I said, okay, well, is this just us or is there anything in, I started researching.
Right.
I started researching. I went online. I started Googling. Sure enough, stories on Business Week, stories on CNN Money about, and they're interesting, by the way. Some of you may, they don't sound ultra alarming at first. One of the stories, as an example, was a story out of San Francisco and the Bay Area where homes, by the way, if you don't know, homes in the Bay Area were selling like 200 above ask, 200,000 above ask, 15 offers on everything, absolute mayhem. Well, now
we did a deal for a family, $3.8 million. A year later, the appraisal came in at $7 million.
It's crazy, right?
Crazy.
But now what they're seeing is instead of getting 15 offers, they're getting 3. Instead of selling 200,000 above asking price, they're selling at 50,000 above ask. It's starting to thaw, and it's happening across the country. Let's talk about this further. Get with us. The number here to connect with Todd or I directly is 800-676-2420. I'm Daniel Beer. And it's been a pleasure being with you. I'm going to turn the mic over to Todd. But again, 800-676-2420.
Todd Pianon, Home Street Bank, a member of the FDIC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS, ID number 304014. Give us a call, 800-676-2420, en route.